Coming to you from a humble newsroom on the back lot of yesteryear. Yesterday's news today. Recorded with the highest fidelity instruments that were on sale on Amazon. You will hear the most fascinating and terrific stories of our time. It's hard to know what to believe in this ever-changing world, but you can be certain to receive just the facts from our trusted newsman. Here he is, Jonathan T. McMalley.
Hello, and welcome to yesterday's news today. First, an election bulletin from our newsroom. After months of speculation, we now know the official Democratic ticket for the 2020 presidential election. On Tuesday, Cuppa Joe Biden announced via mobile telex that California Senator Kamala Harris would be his running mate to face off against the sitting president, Donald J. Trump, and Vice President Mike Pence. The tough-on-crime prosecutor turned junior senator was a presidential hopeful until December of last year, when she bowed out due to a reported lack of funding. She often cited inconsistencies in his voting record regarding racial issues. Key among these dates back to the 1970s, where Biden opposed busing that could have helped with the desegregation of schools. On the campaign trail, Biden has addressed these concerns and proposed future policies regarding racial inequality. Senator Harris has also spent the past year advocating for prison reform and racial justice. More progressive voters have criticized both candidates for too tepid a response in social issues. The candidates will need to galvanize a solid platform in the coming months if they plan to win what could be one of the most crucial elections of our lifetime. Voters will have an important decision to make in a nation reeling from a pandemic with no end in sight. Which brings us to our top story. This week, coronavirus cases in the United States have exceeded 5 million, now comprising about 1/4 of cases worldwide. The U.S. leads the world in reported deaths at over 160,000 souls lost. The nation may also face tragedy beyond the death toll. Unemployment is at historic highs. While not the 14.7% jobless rate from April, July's unemployment of about 10.2% is still the worst seen in 70 years. Many industries remain shuttered or are forced to operate with fewer employees to ensure the safety of workers and consumers. In late March, the Coronavirus Aid, Relief, and Economic Security Act, commonly referred to as CARES, was passed to help those affected, but many of its provisions are expiring. While both sides believe that a new stimulus bill is necessary, Congress has been unable to surmount disagreements on what that might look like. The Grand Old Party has focused on boosting the economy and getting people back to work with incentives in the proposed HEALS Act, while the Democrats' HEROES Act looks to mostly extend measures from the CARES Act. On Saturday, to circumvent this indecision, President Trump took unilateral action, signing 3 memoranda and an executive order. While many praised this response, concerns have been raised about the wording and implementation of his orders. Which brings us to our brand new segment,
McMalley's Minute of Memoranda Minutia.
Thank you, Denberg. The most contentious portion states that any persons making less than around $104,000 annually would not have payroll taxes deducted from paychecks until the end of the year. This is indeed a deferral and not a cut, meaning these taxes would come due starting next year. The president has stated that if re-elected, he plans to forgive the levy and make permanent cuts to the payroll tax. Both Democrats and Republicans have voiced concern that this does not help the unemployed and could permanently harm Social Security and Medicare. As to student loans, President Trump extended relief from the CARES Act through the end of the year. This paused loan payments and interest on federally held student loans. There is some confusion for individuals enrolled in public service loan forgiveness, wherein previous months of non-payment had counted toward the 120 payments required for the program. This will no longer be the case, and PSLF members should opt out of forbearance if they want payments in these coming months to count toward their total. As to housing, the president did not choose to explicitly continue the moratorium on evictions. This portion mostly made requests to the Center of Disease Control and the Secretary of Health and Human Services to determine the impacts of evictions on the spread of COVID-19. It also stated that the Secretaries of Housing and Urban Development, as well as the Treasury, would look into funding to combat homelessness, but did not go into detail on any further plans. The greatest change from the CARES Act comes by way of a replacement to enhanced unemployment benefits, which contributed $600 from the federal government atop of what the state was providing. The new plan would reduce this to $400, a quarter of which would have to come from the states themselves. Many states are struggling financially and fear they would be unable to pay this portion. There are further concerns that the new systems would need to be created to distribute this money. As New Jersey Governor Philip D. Murphy stated, states are going broke and millions of Americans are unemployed. Yet the president's solution called for states to create a new program we cannot afford and don't know how to administer. There are expected to be challenges as to the constitutionality of these sweeping orders, but those around the president claim that he had no choice. His trade advisor, Peter Navarro, said on NBC's Meet the Press that the Lord and the Founding Fathers created executive orders because of partisan bickering and divided government. In further executive order news, the president has declared TikTok a national emergency. Invoking the International Emergency Economic Powers Act, the Trump administration has banned any financial transactions between the U.S. and TikTok's parent company, ByteDance, as well as WeChat developer Tencent, citing privacy concerns. While there is ongoing research as to the extent of information collected about users, the U.S. government's primary fear is how China might use it. Disinformation campaigns utilizing these applications are an added concern. The president's ban would prevent these mobile communication and entertainment platforms from receiving advertisements and effectively removing both TikTok and WeChat from application marketplaces. TikTok has expressed plans to sue as they were not given notice of the ban. There are many questions as to how this will be implemented before the rules go into effect in a little over a month. There could be economic fallout as Tencent has investments in music companies, interactive electronic game creators, and film production. There are also U.S. entities with advertising campaigns already being built for the platform who may face financial hardships. Furthermore, there are concerns that such a ban would defy First Amendment rights. Over 100 million Americans have downloaded the app, which is used to share short motion pictures including comedic sketches and choreographed dances. It was also used to organize a protest against the president in June of this year. Thousands of teenagers reserved tickets to his rally in Tulsa with no intention of attending. This resulted in a smaller audience at what was expected to be a triumphant return to the campaign trail. 2 weeks later, Secretary of State Mike Pompeo talked for the first time publicly about a ban of the application. As with TikTok, we here at Yesterday's News Today need advertisers to keep the lights on. So, here is a word from our sponsors.
Are you beside yourself in self-isolation? Does the state of the world have you feeling down? Do you face resistance to social distance? Well, you are not alone. In fact, you are a part of a grand nation that has endured many a trying time. Have we always handled these ordeals with brilliance and grace? Not necessarily, but nonetheless we have made it through. We are at our best when we stand together in the face of any epidemic. We have fought against authoritarianism and oppression abroad, and for rights and freedoms within our own borders. We can continue to combat these infections and the literal disease that is ravaging these fine lands. This week, we are proud to be sponsored by the unshakable American spirit. Find yours today.
Apologies, Mr. Delton, but are you sure that is in fact our sponsor?
Well, Jonathan, if by sponsor you mean someone who helped fund this program, no, not in as many words.
So there is still no funding for the show.
In a manner of speaking, exactly. But if any of you fine hard-working Americans or corporations would like to become a sponsor, please contact us. Immediately.
Perhaps with sponsorship we can actually source from local correspondents for this next segment, but alas. In unexaggerated local news, the Grim Reaper can be seen strolling crowded Florida beaches. While Walton County officials have stressed the importance of social distancing, one local lawyer thinks it is not enough. With hundreds flocking to enjoy the surf and the sun, Daniel Ulfelder fears reopening was premature. To make his point, he walks the hot, sandy shoreline as the embodiment of death, complete with scythe and, of course, a mask. Most visitors to the Florida beach seem unfazed by the nightmarish entity in their midst. Meanwhile, in New Zealand, two wizards in long dark robes were seen having coffee. The elder of the two, Ian Brackenbury Chanel, was teaching his apprentice the ways of wizardry. As the official wizard of Christchurch, Chanel is paid $10,000 a year to dress up and fight potential curses upon the land. Doing so has earned him the Queen's Service Medal and a 4 out of 5 on TripAdvisor. Truly, he sees his duty is to spread some fun and joy and occasionally give an impassioned speech in the town square. He has some rather strong opinions about music, gender, and the census. His apprentice, Ari Freeman, can be seen openly debating him on these topics, but thinks it's important to continue the wizard phenomenon to empower the lost and depressed. Similar disagreements between young and old are being had at a school in Dallas, Georgia. Fearing a lack of adequate precautions against coronavirus, a sophomore in the Paulding County School District took a photograph. This image of a crowded hallway with very few masked students was placed on the information superhighway, where it spread virally, many sharing the students' concerns. The girl was subsequently suspended, accused of breaking several codes of conduct. This suspension has since been lifted, and the school superintendent, Brian Attot, claims the image misrepresents the protocols they have in place. Meanwhile, upwards of 30 people have tested positive for the virus. Excuse me. And this just in from our newsroom, the school has been closed. In related news, we've received reports that an infected man in Saudi Arabia may face the death penalty for spitting on a shopping carriage. Finally, we move on to our last big story in national news. Financial misfires from the leadership of the National Rifle Association could result in the organization being dissolved entirely. New York Attorney General Letitia James has announced that her office is filing a lawsuit against the NRA to such an end. According to the Attorney General, Wayne LaPierre, an executive vice president of the nonprofit, allegedly misused millions in donor funds. There are personal expense reimbursements for private jet travel for persons other than himself, at least 8 family trips to the Bahamas, and millions of dollars allocated for personal and home security. He has testified that he does not know everything his director of security is spending money on, but that the treasurer does. The aforementioned treasurer, Wilson Woody Phillips, is also named in the lawsuit for conflicts of interest, related party transactions, and self-dealing. In response to the suit, Texas Attorney General Ken Paxton invited the NRA to move to Texas, saying, if they're in New York, it opens them up to investigation by the Attorney General's office in a way that I don't think would happen in Texas. Last Thursday, the Washington, D.C. Attorney General's office sued the NRA based on similar allegations.
Well, Jonathan, sounds like the NRA really shot themselves in the foot there.
Yes, Bruce, one could say that. Definitely an entertaining take from our entertainment reporter.
That's me. Always appreciate a seamless transition. In entertainment news, Kanye West's presidential bid is being bolstered by Republicans in several states. In Arkansas, Ohio, and Wisconsin, individuals with previous ties to the Trump campaign have been submitting ballot petitions for the rapper/fashion designer. The man who wrote the lyrics, pockets on Shrek, rockets on deck, tell me what's next, aliens, is running as an independent representing the birthday party. At his only rally so far, he wore a bulletproof vest, offered U.S. citizens who have babies up to $1 million, and eventually broke down in tears. His wife, Kim Kardashian West, requested compassion and empathy while the candidate struggles with bipolar disorder. Rather, the denizens of the internet have taken to posting supposedly humorous images related to his actions. In similar news, the relationship of Will and Jada Pinkett Smith has become a great source of speculation. Earlier this summer, rumors surfaced about her potential extramarital affair with singer-songwriter August Alsina. When gossip reached its peak, the state of the marriage was dissected publicly on the show The Red Table. Jada confirmed the affair, but notoriously referred to it as an entanglement. The images of a crying Will Smith reacting to this news became fodder for comedians all across the World Wide Web. I would like to apologize in advance to our listeners, as I feel I need to take a break from the entertainment news to cover some prominent health concerns. It must be stated that men often go undiagnosed for depression. As a result, they regularly face higher rates of suicide and drug dependence. Depression among black men is statistically even higher, with mental health stigmas worsening the issue. So, when images of crying black men get passed around for jokes, two men dealing with their emotions and/or mental well-being being exploited for lazy humor or even political gain, maybe that's not entertainment. Maybe we should not be dismissive of these men, but rather compassionate and empathetic. Maybe these things should not be laughed at, but addressed with nuance and subtlety. Or maybe, just maybe, the lifestyles of the rich and famous, their relationships and personal trials should be left alone altogether. Although, would that mean by covering all of this, are we perhaps perpetuating the problem? Yes, indeed I believe we are the problem.
Well, that ends our show. It isn't necessarily the note that I would have chosen to go out on for our first episode, but it is what it is. Good night.
This program was written and performed by Roger J. Thatcher and Dennis Schanneberg. You are encouraged to obtain a subscription to this broadcast with the simple selection of a button below. Furthermore, you can indicate your appreciation by giving us the old thumbs up. Be sure to tune in next week to hear tomorrow's news of yesterday, then.